What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream, aka spoiler alert, episode 732, where we review the past week's comics as well as talk about some fun pop culture things. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo, owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street in Philadelphia, PA. Gracefully festooned upon the tapestry of culture that is Manny Every week, I thank my lucky stars that this individual is able to bless us with his wit, his spirit, his deep-ass voice, but most importantly, his smile. Please welcome the man, the myth, and legend, Brian Lieb.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, JJ. I'm happy to be here every week.
Oh, yeah. Noel's here, too.
Hey.
No. Yeah, there it
is. Hey, finger gunning it.
Yeah. The audacity of that introduction.
Uh-oh.
I thought the boldness of it I really enjoyed.
I did not start recording on Audacity.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, hey.
There we go.
Yeah. Ditto. Wow.
Whoops.
Sweet.
All right, well, I'm recording now.
Good.
As am I.
Intro.
Sorry.
Thanks to those that are joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you know what we're doing here, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. The joy of doing this live is that you all join in the chat. So pipe up if you want. We will respond to you if it's relevant.
That is cool. You know, I've noticed that we don't get as many emails as we used to, but we get to interact with people live, and I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's
cool. Is there any way for them to pay you money if they wanted to?
If they wanted to, they could. Yeah. We'll get to that later.
Ooh, cool. Stay tuned, guys. Give up your money.
Oh, God damn it. No. We already put it on the screen. You can go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo to help out the show. But if you don't have any money, because none of us do, just to hang out with us and give us your love.
Emails were mentioned. You could always write jdsherocomplex@gmail.com if you want to send a question or a comment or a topic of discussion, but don't have time to actually meet us here at 10:30 in the morning, or for some reason may feel shy about just commenting as you go. Who knows?
Anyway. Any reason?
Lurkers. We have lurkers who don't, join in the convo.
That's cool.
All right. Oh, wait. Comment. Good morning, Cult Poppers. How was your week? Asks Robert Monroe Jr.
Who wants to go?
Yes.
My week's great.
Good.
I mean, at any time that you feel tired or sad or overwhelmed, just look into the eyes of your child.
Oh, my God. Do you mean this child?
Don't wake him up.
Where is he?
Don't wake him up.
Hey,
please. Okay.
Hey.
I didn't wake him up.
Oh.
He's down here in his little rocker just staring up at me.
What's that outfit he's got on? Who's on that outfit?
Oh, geez.
What's he wearing?
He pulled out my headphones.
Oh, my.
Doing it live. It's a little boy with a crown riding a bear.
Oh. He's in like a mountainous area.
Yeah.
With a lantern on his dick. I like that guy.
Oh,
with
Kai,
a lantern on his dick.
Everything the light touches.
I don't know what his dick is.
Everything the light touches.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Normally we would get to the letters portion of the show, but as I said, we don't have any letters because they're all in the comments. We're going to get into the comic block part of the show, and we're going to start off with King in Black #5 from Marvel Comics, and it's by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, and this is the what would you call it? The finale.
The denouement.
The denouement.
Or is that what happens right before the finale, actually?
All right. What's the coup de grace?
That's the cup of grass.
Fuck you.
No, it's actually the blow of mercy, right? It's the killing stroke when the enemy is defeated. The blow of grace to kill him.
This is that. Of Donny Cates' long run on Venom, and then Absolute Carnage, and now King in Black, the sequel to that. And Diamond has this to say: "What's a god to a non-believer?" That's it.
That's an interesting question.
So, when Donny Cates first jumped on the Venom Phenom, as it's called, only by me, I was like, oh, this is weird. There's like a god of symbiotes, and it felt like it was really diverging from what Venom always has been, and sort of building a much larger mythology to the symbiotes and to Venom and to Eddie Brock, and giving him a child and making him much more personable as a character. And then, he's hanging out with the Avengers. That's friggin' weird. I don't know how I feel. So I do have some in-between feelings about this where, yeah, Venom isn't Venom anymore as we know him, but also isn't that good? Moving things forward with a character, what we want, what I generally want out of a comic series. Yes, yes, it is. And so where we wind up at the end of this series is very different than the Venom that we got back in issue 300 of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. I don't know if this wrapped up in a way that I felt was completely satisfactory. I think that it was a little quick. Once the big thing happens and we have the God of Light show up, who is never explained, by the way. I know who he is because of my long decades reading Spider-Man and Marvel comics. Peter Parker had this particular ability at one point as well.
That was awesome.
That was real cool. He was able to fly, and his powers were really enhancing, and he could control.
You could control his webs in various ways. Yeah, that was very cool.
He could morph his webs into different things.
Yeah.
And we found out eventually that he had become in possession of the
Enigma Force.
Yeah, and he became Captain Universe. Captain Universe. Yeah. And he had the Captain Universe costume except for his webs on his mask.
Yeah, which I thought was a pretty cool combination of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's the God of Light, and that's the guy who shows up to help Venom to resurrect Eddie Brock and defeat Null.
Yeah, Null.
Yeah, Null. What did you think of the defeat of Null? Null.
I've been locked and loaded into this series since the first arc of Venom, because unlike you, I don't have any happy memories of this character. I think he's shit.
Venom?
I think he's always been shit. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I hate Venom. The only time that I enjoyed it is when why don't you just go away, JD? You're not needed anymore because Venom is garbage. The only time that I liked him, or liked the character, what they did with the character, is when they completely left turned and Rick Remender made it Flash Thompson and more of a espionage book. It was like, cool, this is really fun. This is taking a very 90s trope and kind of turning it into something else. Donny Cates came on and applied a weird mythology, or a space mythology that didn't exist before, which was interesting to me. And throughout all of it, he's been taking small pieces of Marvel continuity, not always explaining them, and applying it to this was a Street character for a very long time, making it big, slowly making it bigger and bigger, and it's kind of culminated here. It's fun, everything from how they used to draw his drool green has a reason. Why he is able to do what he can do has a reason. Why there's gaps in his memory. How come we never knew he had a son? Stuff that is all given these Jeff Johns level retcons, where they're straight retcons, but they come from a place of absolute knowledge about the character and the
he could have always been intended kind of retcon.
And when you mentioned too, they never really explain what the Enigma Force is. They did I jumped in during Rebirth. They never really explain what Parallax is if you go back and read it, unless you knew what it was. It's just they give it to you, and hopefully it's inspiring enough to go look up what the hell the Enigma Force is, and then you'll see oh shit. But I really did enjoy the retcon of taking it, because it wasn't just taking the Enigma Force and Captain Universe and kind of making it function like a symbiote does, like an ancient symbiote does, just darkness and light. But they tied it all back to Jason Aaron's Thor also. Not just the Necrosword, which they had done before, but that being that the other being was fighting. Yeah, well, it was pre-Gore.
Oh.
The original being that was there's that 2 or 3 panels of 2 ancient beings locked in battle, and they're just husks, and one was the All Black and the Necro Sword, and they never talk about the other one. The other one was the Enigma Force. The other one was the God of Light. Like they're tying all these little disparate pieces together. So on the surface, action movie, this whole issue just structurally was climax. So the turn actually happened at the end of the last issue, and this was all fight. So if you're just looking at this issue as one piece, it's just an action issue. It's a fight. You know, this is the turn where the hero has the upper hand, and they have it for the whole issue. Yeah. I saw some people online were kind of complaining like this was just a one-sided fight. I was like, it wasn't if you read the last 20 issues. Like Null has Null has been destroying them. A lot. Yeah. So it wasn't like it, but I really, really enjoyed it. I know that it's stupid. I know that it's 1000% comics. Essentially, also too, the stuff that we kind of all hate about comics, it's just done incredibly well. And I'm like, this is fun. This is just fun.
Yeah. To go back to what you were saying about Jason Aaron's Thor, that's when I started to really appreciate the Venom run. Because I saw what Donny Cates was doing and how he was using things from other bits of Marvel history. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's what I like about comics. Yeah. That's what I like about shared universes.
Oh yeah, another plot thread in Venom that hasn't been brought back is he folded in the Ultimate Universe and where it's been into his Venom run.
Oh, with
the Maker.
Yeah.
That ended in a really interesting place where the Maker disappeared into a universe that we presume is 1616 is the Ultimate Universe, and we never touched it again. So like he's not only taking like stuff like Captain Universe from 30-40 years ago, but he's also playing with recent history and retconning things all around. It's a full package. And I know you guys didn't read Venom number 34, which came out this week also. He's also bringing he brought back Flash.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? I wondered at the end of this. I was like, "Oh, is he going to come back?" And great.
He's doing that perfect thing at the end of like long runs where you put all the toys back.
Yeah.
In like a really fun way.
Run. He's like fixing it from
It's so wonderful. I was very happy with this. And there's one more issue of Venom coming, but as far as like the coda on the end of a run or the climax of the end of a run, I'm very happy with this, ups and downs, all of it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. It looks like this was the start of a whole new thing for him. But is he just doing like a one issue thing and somebody else will do that?
Yeah, he's got one. It's like an 80-page issue, like one big anniversary issue left to end the run, and then the next creative team hasn't been announced.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you mentioned JD that this is not the Venom from whatever Amazing Spider-Man 100. Did you say 298? And there were two different things that I thought at the end of this, when he, everything is one and, or almost everything, I was like, there's no way that they could have Eddie Brock at this point go back to ever being like kind of an anti-hero. I mean, obviously they could just start ignoring this and then it's done. But, I thought that, but it's also funny you should say that because I noticed at the end of this, he had, like at the very end before he like goes off, he's got no tongue coming out of his mouth, right, and his teeth are closed, and he looks like the Eddie Brock from the very first appearance before they had done the tongue coming out of his mouth and all that stuff, which I forgot was not always part of his design even. It's so emblematic. The one more note about his design, the fact that they incorporated the Captain Universe stuff I thought was pretty cool, but it was maybe a little too subtle. I didn't notice it for like 6 pages, and then I had to go back to see if it was there. Just as we were talking, I was thinking, Captain Universe is all about the circles and the lines. It could have been cool to see the circle and lines kind of in the Venom look, But anyway.
It wasn't a fail, but it wasn't enough of a redesign to really see the power up. It was just because they have the whole like kind of ramp up to it where choose your form. It's like the force is choosing you, or the force. The Enigma Force is choosing you, so choose your true form. You're the chosen one kind of thing. And he's just like my old costume.
Yeah, basically. But glowy.
Yeah, so I would have also been like, oh, give me something a little bit like, because if it's really just a power up for one extended climax, it's not like a new thing. So hey, show me a new action figure.
Yeah,
give me something crazy.
Yeah, give me Captain Universe Venom.
Yeah,
I mean, Captain Universe, it's blue. It's a blue star field. So I had the same problem, Brian. I did not notice the star field on Venom's new look until way later, and I went, oh, there it is.
Yeah, I went back and I was like, oh, it was there. Was that?
Yeah, it was there. Yeah. But it didn't really go as far with it as I would have liked.
Yeah, me too. Especially like you were saying, it's one issue. Let's do it. Now, why did he? What's that?
I was gonna say, what do you guys think about things like, he is able to command Mjolnir and Silver Surfer's sword?
Oh, that is also what I was gonna ask Noel. Like, is there a reason that he can do that, or is just like two powerful weapons nearby?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There's no explicit reason. However, right now he's imbued with not only the Enigma Force, but also weaponry and capabilities older than Asgard.
Wait, so, why that?
Because the Necro Sword and then also the God of Light. So like it's like Thor related weaponry.
Does he have
that predates? Sword? It's part of him now because he was he's part of the symbiote, like the All Black. Like it's able to command back and forth kind of stuff. So it's not really explicitly stated. It's just like they've tied the origin of a lot of these things into both Cosmic Surfer from millennia ago when he first faced the King in Black, all the way to Jason Aaron's run of Thor. So the idea of kind of bridging the two by creating a weapon is I think it's more fan servicey than like explicitly makes sense. It's just kind of cool.
Well, and the Enigma Force like takes care of it for me personally. It's like, well, he's got the Enigma Force. They can do like basically anything.
He's imbued with the God of goodness and light. I'm just now, right this second, noticing that the shape of his axe is the spider on his chest.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that either until you explicitly pointed it out.
No joke. I will imagine the sculpt of whatever action figures will end up being. Hopefully, will have like a more defined star field. And with that weapon, I think I might be down. I think I'd buy that.
I'd buy that. I put it on my shelf. Yeah. Overall, this was a really, really over-the-top, big, crazy, fun. He cuts off the head of the fucking what's that thing called? Celestial.
I liked how readily it was done too. It was like, this is not a big river. Also, when he does what he does, like, what is that? Is this King in Black like a guy who bonded to a symbiote a very long time ago? Or
yes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. He's the person that found the dead corpse of the original being that became the Necro Sword, the All Black.
Where did we learn that?
He himself, we learn it in Venom.
Like it was actually in Venom. Okay, I must have.
Yeah, it's actually it's in the first arc. The first 6 issues, Rex of Donny Cates' Venom almost seeds all of this stuff, and now 3 years later, we kind of get the culmination of all of it.
I'm going to go back and read
Venom was a weird. Venom's like a weird mix because I always wanted more of his. Like I always wanted to see like what if other heroes went to the same machine Spider-Man went to, or like let's learn about the symbiote like planet where they're from, and they never touched on it. You know what I mean? Decades, and they never went to it. Yeah.
Bendis attempted to define it.
Did he?
Which was it was the planet Clintar, and all of the symbiotes were actually just kind of like the planet is created out of all of symbiotes, and they're all like perfect organisms in a planetoid. And the one that got to Earth was corrupted. That's why Venom was always kind of crazy and corrupted. And then when Flash was a part of the Guardians, they discover all this, and the Clintar actually heal his symbiote. And he's able to that's when he turns into like a mech looking thing, and he's able to do like tons more. And then they kind of moved away from that, but Donny Cates didn't throw that away. He kind of revealed another level of information. So the Clintar are a planetoid of symbiotes, but it wasn't a planet so much as a jail. What they were doing was they were all collecting to keep the null inside of it, so it was like a jail for him.
Oh, I
as
got
opposed to just went. Yeah, so like it's guys, it's classic comic booking where
Oh,
they
that's
just
cool.
kind of keep yes-handing each other with story points,
yeah.
and it's just great. It's just super great.
That's cool. See, that's what I love so much about Universe X, JD. And well, you may have started with Earth X, but that's why it surprised me to hear you say you like that so much. That's like one of the main things I like about that. And I know that you're not so into that series.
Yeah, and before we move off of this book, I think it should get we all like it. Oh, baby, kitty. That's not a baby.
Yeah, you won't leave me alone.
We shouldn't. I think we should give some credit by just how weird and wild this goes. You mentioned like Celestials. I mean, 2 issues ago, symbiotes took over a Celestial and started to attack a city, but then Tony Stark took God armor that was established in like Kieran Gillen's run 5 or 6 years ago and imbued that with extremist tech, and they had a big boss battle. I mean, this is huge and stupid, and it's wonderful. I love this stuff.
Justin Agnew says, "Say this is a sweet wrap up for the since following Kate's start with Venom." Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it felt a little quick. That's all. But overall, I think this was a big bucket of fun. Yeah. Let's move on to Next Batman, Second Son, #1 from DC Comics, written by John Ridley, with art by Tony Akins and Travel Foreman. Readers now know that after the event of Future State, Tim Fox is the next Batman. What's his origin story? Why has he been estranged from Lucius Fox and his family for so long? Connected to the dramatic events of Infinite Frontier #0, these questions and many more will be explored in this thrilling new Digital First miniseries. I read the Digital First, and I don't like reading the Digital Firsts because what they're doing is they're taking a regular comic book and they're chopping it in half. And that is super frustrating. Just give me the issue and let me read the whole first issue.
Which also must constrain the artist a bit, right? Because they know that they're producing for Digital First, so they really have to make it work within a top and bottom, you know?
Do they know?
Maybe not. Maybe not. But you don't see any, like, full page thing, you know what I mean? I don't
Well, no, no, more so than that, just the way the story is constructed. Do they know that, that these full stories are kind of being chopped inorganically in the middle?
Yeah. But especially with this series, that Future State is going to be a whole other thing. Yeah.
Well, so much so, like, I read this in print. I skip the digital is all the way up to like issue 5 or 6, but I wanted to explicitly read this in print because I want a full issue. And after reading the issue, I went back and looked where like the stop point was for the digital. And if that was the stop point of the first issue for me, I wouldn't continue reading because it gives me nothing. Like a dude shows up in a room. Yeah. Cool.
Well, I have another question. Do you have the physical issue right there with you?
I didn't bring it with me. Let me check if it's on the stands.
I've got it over here because there's one panel where Jace's like bottom of his foot is cut off in the digital one, and I wonder if it is if it extends into the next page in the physical copy.
I don't have it. I don't have it with me, but I probably doesn't.
Yeah, right.
Also,
but
not
this
for
all
nothing, but
pages.
this art by Tony Akins, I believe, I might be wrong, but I feel like he was a guy who was part of the G.I. Joe reboot over at IDW or one of those publishers. And it wasn't for me then, and it's not for me now. This does not seem like top tier DC comic booking. So I don't know. This was fine. I wasn't blown away by it. Yeah, look at this. Here are 2 different pages. If you look on the screen, here's the last page broken up into 2 pages.
Classic panel. Man,
your dad wants you home, Timmy. Oh, what's the next cliffhanger page gonna be? Oh, it's their feet.
And
to be continued.
That is the last page.
Yeah. So I am currently reading through all the IDW G.I. Joe, and I don't remember that artist. However, I didn't find it that bad. This is serviceable, right?
Oh, Travel Foreman? Are we talking about Travel Foreman?
I didn't notice Travel Foreman in here at all. I know what Travel Foreman art looks
JD,
like.
that's the page. Look. There it is. His foot is not cut off, and they cut it off for the digital. See?
Yeah, this is not digital first. This is edited to be digital.
It works so much better as a page when the foot is like extending into these descending panels. Like that's a pretty good page.
Yeah.
If I could for a second say Animal Man that Travel Foreman did, speaking of page layout, you guys, if you are interested in page layout, that is a book to read. It's some of the best that I've seen ever. Like he's using the white spaces and extending things out. It's really, really well done.
So I've actually waited to read it because I was waiting for the New 52 Omnibus or Swamp Thing Omnibus also because I want to read them in succession with each other. So I've got both waiting.
Oh, sweet. I really like those two. Yeah.
But art aside and publishing schedule or choices aside, please read this in print, everybody. I kind of dug this. I liked the story a lot. Like I was very happy with the progression of the story. I think that they are stretching things out too much. So we've read 4 issues of Future State and we've been reading this now. Just tell me why the fuck he changed his name.
Oh yeah.
There's these inorganic mysteries and I'm it's not a mystery anymore. It's just annoying. Just tell me why.
In Future State, it kind of made sense because you're like, oh, okay, we won't get it in a bit. But this, I don't know, it's too much. Like you were saying, like what happened when he was 17?
And I don't know the entire family makeup of the Fox family. So he was talking to one sister and then something happened to the other sister. I'm like, oh, he has 2 sisters. Okay.
Yes.
Like I didn't know all of these things. So there's a couple of like story points that I didn't jive with. However, overall, it was solid. I'm interested in Jace. I like the idea of him being a little bit of a freedom fighter, and his brother is Batwing. So somewhere along the lines, one hanging up and one taking over. And do they know that about each other? I think that's a pretty fascinating, complex drama, right? So overall, I don't think this is a waste. I just think that it's a waste to do it digitally.
That makes sense. I also wonder, like, and I really don't know, will he become the next Batman during this or not? And if the answer is no, then, and I suspect that it is no, then I'm like, because what you were just talking about and all that kind of thing won't be explored, which is unfortunate because that is an interesting idea. Like, do they know that each one is the other and that kind of thing? I also found myself thinking, you remember his costume in Future State had kind of the classic Batman cowl, but with the face that is usually covered as well. I think that is a similar design to this Batwing. I think it works better in Batwing though, where
it's a full mask.
Exactly. Yeah. There's like a step off around his entire face.
Well, also, I also think that, so I think in Future State explicitly, I think the choice to cover mouth for the cowl was to not know that I'm not Batman because he clearly has a different skin color.
Right. And you do see it later in Justice League.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be a secret.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a identity thing.
It makes sense. And it would make sense in the story, too, for that. Yeah. For that reason. I found myself reading this and thinking, like, ooh, I want this to be the Batwing story. Like, I'm more interested in, like, he's cool. I'm interested in that.
I mean, isn't this the larger problem with DC right now? So this could have been a lead up to something else. However, we know that it's not going to be a lead up to what we saw for 4 issues already, even though there are pieces of it that align with current continuity and like Tinian's. It's all a mess that goes nowhere. So I'm trying to just be like, if it succeeds just where it is, you can't think about that because and it's not even like don't spoil the story for yourself. It's just you put all these breadcrumbs and you've already told us it's not going to like lead to a meal. So I guess I'll just enjoy the breadcrumbs. Okay.
It's like now that you mention it that way, I remember reading there was this like Superman Green Lantern story that was published years after it was done, and Neil Gaiman wrote it, and they didn't publish it. He was not well known at the time, and they didn't publish it because like it conflicted with the direction they wanted to go with. So it was right after Crisis, and they're like, no, we're not going to do it. They published it later, and it was good. It was a fun story, but it took place in a continuity that didn't exist at that time, and it was just fun on its own. Like a little mini, almost an Elseworlds kind of thing. And if they can be something like that, then and is a good story on its own, then that's good.
Are we even allowed to use that term anymore? Because now they're
Elseworlds?
making Elseworlds a part of continuity for this Elseworld and Infinite Frontier, which just messes up everything else.
Oh, I'm still going to I have such strong and lovely feelings towards Elseworlds.
I approach literally everything at DC now being cool. It's not going to match with everything else. It needs to just stand on its own because they're making it very clear.
I mean, I don't know that that's the case, though.
I mean, everything picks and chooses what it decides to.
Does it? I mean, have you noticed that in the comics, like in the reading of the comics? Have you noticed?
Yeah, read Justice League, read the first couple of Philip Kennedy Johnson Supermans, read The Flash, and then also read just this past week Green Lantern, which we're going to talk about, and then this. None of them match. Oh, especially Batman. Batman's just doing its own goddamn thing.
I mean, do they contradict each other continuity-wise?
They don't contradict each other continuity-wise, but they don't reference any kind of continuity, which is, I guess, the same thing. It's not as egregious. Hang on. It's not as well. I mean, the absence of something could also be the same argument for the existence of something.
Okay.
So, it's not like Alfred's dead in one book and Alfred's alive in another book kind of egregious. It's more we're not going to talk about anything else because we don't know where the lines are drawn with every other book. Do you know what I mean?
Like in Batman, they're actually looks like they're building towards Future State because they've got the Mayor Tanaka, I think. Yeah. Mayor Tanaka, who is running on a platform of no masks, which we know in the Future State is how we get to where we are with with Dark Detective.
And they've talked about the magistrate program too.
Yeah. Well, but what if we just Future State is not this. This is not building the Future State. We're not trying to piece together how this will lead to Future State. That's just something that could happen out of current continuity. So, the fact that is happening in Batman, and they may be pursuing threads from Future State, and Superman is not. Well, that's just how continuity is playing out.
Do you feel that there's a shared continuity across the main books at DC?
No.
I mean, why? No, less so than when Superman and the Flash don't have anything to do with each other that week. And now, the one thing that has been that it was iffy was the Flash appearance in Justice League versus the Flash. But I think Justice League is right before Barry hands over the realm. And Infinite Frontier, yes, but those overview stories are often a little off from what actually happens.
Yeah, I don't think the long and short of it is I don't think DC's in a great position right now with their line of books. I think there are good ones. I think there are a bunch of mediocre ones, but they don't feel cohesive. I don't feel like it's a great experience. They keep doing this. They keep setting a thing up and then not having the strength of their convictions to see it through. New 52. We're going to change everything. Well, except Batman and Green Lantern. They always existed. What? How? That doesn't make any sense. And it threw the entire thing off, and every single person went, well, wait, what?
Yeah. It did throw the entire... It did.
Yeah. It just felt like they half-assed their way through their line-wide events.
Well,
they set up this
No, sorry. I thought that was your... Yeah, continue. Fair or not, I think Dan DiDio definitely had the reputation of every few years we're going to completely change what we were doing. And that Future State was maybe the last one and didn't fly, and he is not in that position anymore. And I don't know that is the truth of the matter. But, they definitely did that.
Yeah. So we're here in the same situation. Here's Future State. This is where the DC universe is heading. Well, not really. Maybe some of them will. I don't know.
I mean, even Future State didn't have any kind of cohesion.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, I think Future State's issue was that it was going to be one thing, and then they completely changed it, but they didn't want to get rid of it. So that was a mess.
That's a
as far
different.
as that stuff goes.
That's a. What's the phrase? How's the phrase go? That's a distinction without a difference. It doesn't matter where the bad choice was made, whether it was whether it was to fix a previous bad choice. It still all is a bad choice. You know, like.
I think it does matter as in terms of like what we can expect from the future of DC Comics, right? Like,
but this is just a loop of the same things, whether it was done by accident to fix a mistake and or the original mistake. It's still the same thing where there's no tactile cohesion in a shared universe.
Yes.
I don't really feel that way. I don't see why you guys do, but I mean, I hear
That's
you.
fair.
But
yeah, everybody has a
what do you
different
guys think about the
experience.
tournament thing? I think that's an interesting.
The what?
This like tournament of titles that they're doing right now.
Oh,
I don't have Twitter, so I can't vote. But
The round robin.
yeah,
I think all the interesting ones are already off the field. So.
Oh, really? I think it's like a 50-50. There's some of them that I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. I hope it wins. And apparently also they're going to gauge interest in this. And some of these things might happen even if they don't win. Lord Penguins
is taken.
oh.
Hello. Lord Penguins is taken.
Let me ask you this, because I haven't voted yet, but I want to. Did I already miss Robin's?
Oh
No,
no,
I don't think
that's the one that's still there and that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's my favorite one. That's
Yeah.
Tim Seeley, I think is the writer for that. That's the coolest one that's already in there. There's three cool ones that are in there. There's a Zatanna one that's really cool, but it's being written by the Soska sisters, and I don't like anything they've done. So it's like I love this character. Yeah, I love these characters, but they've written some comics and they're not good.
Yeah.
But I don't like the creative team. So yay.
We should describe what we're talking about. So DC Comics on Twitter is having an initiative right now where there are polls up. There is a what is it called?
It's a bracket tournament. It's like March Madness.
Yes,
it's a basketball thing. Yeah.
Sports stuff. Sports voting. And so you can go on and vote for different titles against other titles. Like they're all potential titles. Prospective titles, that don't exist yet. But the fans get to choose what they want, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. Those tournament kind of things always annoy me because it's like, well, yeah, but had the one that won gone up against this one that was eliminated in round one, then it might have been different, you know.
Yes.
But
that's sports, bro.
Yeah, I know. And oh man, there's a whole kettle of worms on that. But
kettle of worms.
Whole kettle of horns.
Yeah.
Or worms?
Worms.
An entire kettle of worms.
It's a worm kettle. That's where I keep my worms.
That's that old phrase. Oh man, he was stuck in a big old worm kettle.
Stuck in a worm kettle.
Do you guys? So before we jump off this topic, do you guys want to know the 8 that are still available and the matchups? Yeah. All right, so I pulled it up. So there are 8 titles still in the running, and these are the matchups. Superman and Lois.
I'm sorry. Before we go on, how many are there going to be total at the end? Just one?
One, but. This is not a true tournament. Like, if there's strong support for something that got eliminated, they might pick it up late. You know,
I think there's because these are full pitches with creative teams attached, even the ones we didn't know about. So if you were a fan of some of them sounding cool, you might hear
about it. Yeah.
But we could probably guarantee that the top 2 will maybe get a digital series or something.
I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Superman and Lois Ignition, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Vasco George Gray.
Is there a description of what Ignition means? What is the?
He has his Supermobile, and they drag race.
Hang on, hold on. Our solar system is a machine, and its purpose is to trap and kill Superman. The sun is darkening. Mars' orbit is changing, and a mysterious citadel in Jupiter's great red eye has awoken. It's time for Kal-El to stand against the very end of his world. But he won't be doing it alone. Lois Lane is suited up and blasting off to get the biggest story of human history and to watch Clark's back as he faces the greatest challenge yet.
No.
I'd read that, but I wouldn't vote for it out of this list.
That is up against Suicide Squad 7 by Rex Ogle with art by Diogenesis Nieves. Harley Quinn leads a team. Oh, I'm already out. Harley Quinn leads a team of criminals, a millionaire adventurer, a stage musician, a sugar-obsessed serial killer, a delusional former superhero, a drunk assassin, a mute metahuman, and a child who becomes a monster to stop the centuries-old Church of Blood from trying to destroy all mankind.
Superman and Lois Ignition. Out of the there we go.
The next matchup is Blue Beetle Graduation Day versus Jesse Quick: Control.
Jesse Quick.
So, Blue Beetle Graduation Day is written by Josh Trulio with art by Adrian Gutierrez. Trapped between heroics and his future, Jamie Reyes is directionless. When the Reach interrupts Jamie's high school graduation, things only get worse.
Oh, that is
Starfire. Starfire becomes a new member to Blue Beetle, a new mentor to Blue Beetle. So it'll be like a Starfire Blue Beetle.
Okay,
that's kind of
cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Jesse Quick Control. When Jesse Quick uses her speed to access an alien artifact from a long dead civilization, she finds herself imbued with the ability to harness and control the elements around her, as well as her super speed is drained. Interesting. This is written by Stephanie Phillips with art by David LaFuente. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Matchup number 3, Lobo Animal Man, Scorched Earth, written by Heath Corson with art by Scott Hepburn, versus Robins by Tim Seeley. Yeah, we won't even read those. Let's just keep going. Lobo versus Nightwing. Come on, seriously.
Yeah.
The next one is Green Lanterns, Underworld of Fire, written by Sina Grace with art by Ken Marion. Sina Grace writing Green Lanterns. That's pretty cool. And it's Kyle and Kilowog.
Oh, that's a cool. Yeah, I like that.
Green Lanterns, Kyle Rayner, and Kilowog are put on the case, and will Kyle be able to do this one by the book when he finds out who's behind it all?
He won't. You know Kyle.
He won't. He's a hothead artist. Anyway.
Hey.
And then versus Zatanna and the King of Nightmares, written by the Soska sisters, with art by Vanessa Del Rey. Something is terribly wrong with Zatanna's powers, but before she can heal herself, she's forced to confront her worst fears in a strange new spiritual realm ruled by the terrifying otherworldly foe known as the King of Nightmares. That is one sentence.
Oh.
Okay.
Next.
That's it. Those are the 4 matchups. That's 8. Right. So
Robins.
Blue Beetle versus Jesse Quick. I mean, I think both are strong, actually. But I guess Jesse Quick just because of Dave LaFuente art. But I mean, I want to see Starfire and Blue Beetle.
Yeah. Plus, also,
that's kind of cool.
If Jesse Quick loses her speed in this one, maybe I prefer that not happen. We'll see what happens.
Oh, there's no real in comics.
Oh, I know. She can come back with speed tomorrow.
Superman versus the Suicide Squad. I think that whoever wins this, we all lose.
Well, Superman would absolutely be my pick out of those two.
Oh, yeah. Superman and Lois Ignition.
I mean, it's an interesting concept. It could be a cool miniseries, but,
Robins versus Lobo. Green Lanterns, I would vote over Zatanna, even though I really, really like Zatanna as a character.
Yeah, it's a tough call, but I would do the same.
Cool.
Yeah. Because Kilowog is fun too,
Hey, next book. Be sure to read the next Batman Second Son in print.
Yeah. And vote on these books if you agree with our choices.
Only if not, don't do it.
Right.
Next up, Project Patron, number 1, Aftershock Comics, written by Steve Orlando with art by Patrick Piazzalunga. 30 years ago, the world watched in horror as the Patron, a hero sent as humanitarian aid from a different dimension, went punch for punch with Woe, a primordial beast, and a perfect match for our mighty protector. In the end, hero and villain alike fell, but the Patron returned and continues to defend us to this day. At least that's what we've been told. The truth is, the Patron died that day along with Woe. The UN replaced the Patron with a Reploid, designed to mimic the real Patron and continue on his mission of protection. Today, the Patron Reploid is secretly piloted by an elite team, a team prepared for anything, except for the death of one of their own.
Well, they should have prepared for that.
I mean, it's not a solicit. That's the entire first issue. I'm glad I didn't read that before I read the book.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Me first?
I didn't read it. You guys go ahead. I gotta go take care of this crying baby.
Okay.
It was interesting. I really loved the concept. I like the story. I think it's really cool. I think that this first issue had some pacing issues. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of points in the story which weren't clear because they were skipping story beats. So especially the climax where you see they're introducing all of the members of the Reploid or Project Patron of the Reploid pilots, and that's the idea that's really cool. You've got certain pilots that are good at certain skills, so like 5 people make up a Superman, right?
Yeah.
The one that's better for science missions, one that's better for brawler missions, one that's better for space missions. Like, so like everyone's got their specialty, which I thought was a really, really cool thing. And then they're introducing this new pilot who's better with, like, he's a trained psychologist, so he's better with the PR and human missions, right? Like, he knows how to quell a crowd kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's all held together by this main guy that's been there forever. Oh, also too, they don't really harp on it, but there's this really, really great drama inherent with it, where every day that you pilot Project Patron, you lose a year of your life. You actually artificially start to age because it takes so much energy out of you.
Yeah.
So there's a sacrifice that all these people are making, and it's just kind of shoehorned in. It's just there's a lot of ingredients in this cake. And then when it comes to the climax, where we kind of find out that this moral center of the group gets assassinated. How it happens, I had to read like 3 times because they skip story beats. So you've got the voiceover of the new guy who is getting prepared for his first time in the suit, which is the next day. But then they show you the next day and Patron doing stuff, and they don't make it clear that it's actually the old guy that's in the suit, but it happens in dialogue, and then you see that he crashes and then is dead. So for most of that scene, you think that it's the new guy that's in the suit, even though the voiceover is not matching. There's a lot of like structural issues with the way that they brought all that together, and it made me read it twice. I don't think it was staged very well, but all the stuff that I liked about the issue was strong enough to be like, oh, this is a really fascinating read. I like they imagined if Superman stayed dead,
right,
during after Doomsday.
Yeah.
And humans just kind of recreated.
Yeah, that was
Superman.
That was my like initial. I mean, obviously, it was like, oh, it's Superman Doomsday if he's dead, which is the kind of thing that I'm normally into. You know, like I can get down with a pastiche or something we could never do with Superman, but we want to tell that story kind of thing. This one, I was like, all right, interesting. You know, it was decent. It didn't like I probably wouldn't read issue 2, but if somebody told me about what happened, I'd be interested to hear how it played out, kind of thing. I also wonder, you get the sense that this guy who was killed, like the heart of it has been there from the beginning, right? But that might, because it's been going for 30 years.
Yeah, he was 20 years old.
So he's 50 now. How many missions has he gone on?
A lot.
It's taking a year off his life every time.
They make mention, and maybe it's not explicitly one mission per year. It's just it takes time from you, or it ages you artificially.
Yeah.
So they make mention that he's 50, but he looks late 60s.
Yeah. Which you would think, right? If it's like 1 year per mission, that's like, I went on 15 missions in the last 30 years.
Yeah, he looks. I'm trying to think of like a really in shape 70-year-old. Who's like an actor. I don't know. Harrison Fordish, maybe just with bulkier. Yeah.
I can see that.
But it's. I too. You know what? Like in hindsight, now this kind of feels like. Do you remember when Image Comics would do their pilot season? They got one. You got one issue to do the whole pitch.
It does feel
and just
like
squeeze
that.
it all in there. Like things that maybe should have been revealed in issue 2 or 3 are just kind of jammed into the front of this to hook as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And it's almost a detriment to the greater story. I picked this because it sounded cool and the creative team was pretty dope. I'm still on the fence about Steve Orlando.
Did he do that Commanders in Crisis that we read?
Yeah.
Another like, what if I could do it, Superman basically? Yeah.
I think there's a lot of really good here. I just don't know if it's all put together.
Yeah. That was kind of similarly. This is better done than that. I don't think any of us really like that too much, but that was kind of similarly like, I am going to give you a bunch of information about this thing. You know what I found myself? I was like, wait, why? how do they know which mission will be required? Why don't they all have a thing that they can, like whenever he goes out, they can switch back and forth? And then I thought to myself, well, maybe they just can't do that, right? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Imagine.
they're building a Reploid thing. Right?
They kind of touch on that a little bit too, where it's the old guy in the suit, Cone. I think it's like Sergeant Cone or Commander Cone or something like that. He's in the suit. And later on, he's talking with like the science lady, and he's like, I at least remembered to scan blah 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 for you, so you'll have something to play with. Like it wasn't a blah blah mission. So like they do their best to kind of cover for each other. And I like the idea of you take away this man and the dynamic will change. Like they only touch on a little bit, but the idea that like you give a normal human superpowers and you expect them to stay the same. The only it's probably not going to happen. And the only thing
that's giving a real shady look, right, when they're they're like in the showers. So I assume that he is not responsible just because he was so suspicious looking there.
I don't know. Like I think there's a lot of good here. I just this issue just kept me at arm's length because of there was some story confusion and just a little bit too much. Yeah, like it's pacing, just pacing.
Yeah. For me, it was just a little bit like, oh, I don't know, this particular pastiche or homage didn't. Maybe it's too similar to the the alliterative name but that hasn't bothered me in other stories. You know what I mean? Maybe it's the same issues. You just kind of articulate them differently. Like when we're not, which is similar to the problem I had with Magic, The Gathering #1. When you're not ingrained in all of the information, you or it's not triggering for you. You notice all the other seams. Yeah. Right. Like when when you're not into it, I mean, you see all the other problems. Yeah. Like I'll be into things and I'll see the seams and I'm like, I don't give a shit because I'm into it. Like I don't care. There's like something deeper to a story than those things that don't fit together. And if it's not on, then you notice. And if it is on, you notice you don't care.
Yeah, it's just,
or you don't notice.
I mean, we notice. But it's subjective.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reminded of a scene in The Dark Knight Rises, I think it was the third one, where he's like where he gets all his money stolen, which is sort of improbable also that he could go to the stock market and rob all of Bruce Wayne's money. Like he doesn't have holdings in other, but anyway, they're at
he takes all of the monies, right?
Yeah,
but he crashes all of it.
I guess, but doesn't Bruce Wayne like own like factories and shit that produce things and whatever. But even more egregious, but you just don't notice is that happens during the day, and then apparently like they go under an overpass and he comes out as Batman and it's night. But the story is such that you're like, makes sense, checks out, he's Batman now. Like just because it's flowing, you don't notice.
In reality though, he was waiting in the underpass for 3 or 4 hours.
Bane is getting away.
It's really a pain in the ass. And then for the rest of the movie, Batman is just in the daytime and he looks ridiculous. That movie's flawed.
Yeah, it is. Cool.
I mean, this was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
I would not like if like you said. I mean, I wouldn't rush out for issue 2. But if I found out later on down the line that like so really good, first arc, you should check. Cool. Yeah. Like maybe this is just first issue, jam it all in kind of thing.
Maybe that's his deal, right? Like I didn't read issue 2 of Commanders in Crisis. Maybe he just tries to throw it all at you at once. And I can't think of. I know Steve Orlando's been around for a long time, but I can't think of anything in particular. But if he's working on superhero stuff, what's that? Did
we just read something like last week or the week before, and I was just like, yeah.
Sure. Well, still, I could see.
The man thing. He wrote that.
Did he write that?
Like, this is fun as hell,
right? He doesn't need to throw everything at you because he's working within the Marvel universe. They're already established. Maybe that matters as far as his approach to telling a story. But it could be interesting. They set something up like, what if somebody is in the Reploid who isn't, who's very much not suited to that, or like oh crap, we've got the strong guy in, and we need this whatever,
They set up two great conflicts. One
Mhm.
being that ever since all that stuff happened with Patron 30 years ago,
Mhm.
two of his biggest villains have been also off the map. So the
Two?
Mammon guy, Mammon and Woe. So Michael Mammon was like the
yeah.
Lex Luthor,
Well,
and then
good.
Woe is like the Doomsday. So either one of them can and probably absolutely will come back when the world is prepared for it.
Sure.
And then also, yes, the what if the wrong person is in the suit for the wrong mission and it just all goes to shit, right? So yeah, and also too, there's oh sorry, go ahead.
The double use of, at one point he's the Reploid says like, oh, he's of Mammon, like, oh, his greed worshipping, like that thing won't hold his greed worshipping ass or whatever, and then later. Yeah, which I do think is cool, though, the Mammon stuff, like the kind of Silver Agey stuff that they're hinting at with selling the hopes of children in this abstract realm. That was cool, but, well, not a cool thing to do, but it's an interesting idea. And in the preview for the next one, they mention greed worshipping again, which makes it feel like he didn't just happen to say that about Mammon. That is like Mammon's epithet. And it's a little, hey, JD is here. But he's muted, but he's here. Oh, I love his facial stuff. Yeah. It's
an audio podcast.
Like his epithet, and it's maybe not. It's a little.
Yeah.
I don't know. JD's got a Wonder Woman mug. I have a Spock Star Trek mug. Very cool.
I have a travel mug because
you're
I'm working today.
It's very futuristic if you're from the early 1900s. No.
All in all, lots of great ideas, just too jammed or stitched together in this book.
This is the same guy who did a book that we absolutely hated, right?
Commanders in Crisis.
Yeah.
You're thinking about? Yeah.
However, Killaman, great, and Killaman, solid, and I really loved Man Thing. So deal with it.
Maybe I won't. And I'll just have to deal with my not being able to deal with it in therapy.
Yeah, I guess that's to your detriment if it really bothers you. No likes Man Thing.
Green Lantern #1.
Yeah.
Well, excuse you. Zach Hilton, friend of the show, Zach Hilton has commented, and he says, found out this week that Hickman is not writing the main X-Men book anymore. I wonder, what are your thoughts in the suggestion that he is taking on more of an editorial role in Marvel's X offices? Noel, you there in the front, you go ahead if you have something to say. Please go ahead.
Yes, Zach Hilton, friend of the show. I think that is alarmist. So, first point, he already is taking an editorial. He already has an editorial position on the X titles. All of the story points for all of the books kind of go through his master plan, and he like to the point where he has co-written some issues of like X-Force and Marauders and stuff, and he does all of the oversized issues with other co-plotters. Like he already has an editorial position in the X books, so let's not even worry about that. 2, I actually think it's a feint. So in the X-Men books, especially like X-Men proper, there has not been a team of X-Men at all. It's been a book about politics and the machinations of this new world order. They are now in the process of voting a team in, like putting together a response team.
On Twitter?
No. Oh, well, yeah, they did. For one member. Like there was a voting thing for one.
Right.
Member.
Oh, I was kidding.
No.
They did do a vote for that.
They voted for like the final member. Like,
do you know who won that one? Did you hear about that?
We won't know until like issue 21 or something in July.
Okay.
But so what I think is going to happen is when that team is assembled, the X-Men title by Jerry Duggan, which was announced, is going to become the team book, just the action team book like X-Men historically is. And he will continue this Krakoa story into another as yet untitled book. So it's not, he's coming off of X-Men. It's more, the story is going to move in a different direction and he's still at the helm of it. That's all.
I'm cool with
That's
that.
all I think. Yeah. I think it's more of a feint and like maybe alarmistness, but he's not leaving anything and it's not hands off. If anything, he's a control freak and it'll be okay. That's my 2 cents.
Agreed.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to get comfortable. I keep standing and sitting because I'm sitting on a stool.
Yes.
And my stool
Zach.
is very uncomfortable on my rumpy dumps.
Zach followed up with, to be honest, it feels like a bait and switch. Yes, I do think it's a bait and switch.
Yeah. Pretty sure. Oh, we both clicked the same thing. Pretty sure Polaris won the vote. I'm afraid the untitled book will be bi-monthly. Yeah, let's not do any bi-monthly. Are any of the books bi-monthly right now for X-Men? Thank God. Because there are too many
it's
of
a
them.
lot for any.
No, they're not bi-monthly. Actually, early on, so during House of X Powers of 10, Hickman went to Twitter and was just like, hey, what are your guys' opinions? Not a poll, but just in general, like, should I do 2 X-Men books a month or should I do an X-Men book and my creator-owned at the same time?
And then
like,
90% of the responses were hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
And it was.
this was before the Snyder Cut was allowed.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. They just knew. Yeah. No, but I think that he ended up going the other way because now we have Decorum and then like and of all the books, X-Men is usually the latest because he keeps having like different artists and then all of the weird fill-ins where there's only one X-Men book a month. However, for like 6 months straight, he had all those giant sizes that were also coming out in the same month. So I mean, yeah, Decorum's fantastic. It's just getting better and better.
Is it? I fell off because, to be fair, I felt like I wasn't smart enough.
It's 2 separate books that now in the 7th issue have converged on each other.
You know how you and I have had this conversation, Noah, where people tell us, hey, just watch 2 seasons of this show and then
that's not the same thing.
No, he was just saying that happened in issue 7.
It's it happened in issue 7. Not that both are shit or like one's shit and you deal with the other one.
No, I never think any Hickman is shit. But it's certainly like I wondered if it would be I need to read this in a trade because following the thread month to month of these different, very sort of disparate stories.
Very disparate. Like, how could they come together at all? But JD, I think you maybe are not giving yourself enough credit. And I think sometimes when you worry, you're like, well, I don't get what's going. Not you personally, but anyway, like, well, I don't get what's going on. Well, maybe it's not there to get yet. You know what I mean? Like the comfortability of unknowing is, don't worry that you're not getting it. It was a weird book.
The basics of Decorum are that it's a book about intergalactic assassins. Mm-hmm. It's just that he spent a lot of time setting up their final mission. That's it.
The only part of that I was enjoying on a level that was story driven was the assassin storyline.
Well, that also becomes Prime, like issue 3 on. There's like you only get snippets of the weird box looking aliens.
That other shit was cool though. It was cool looking. I'll tell you what.
It's really cool looking.
Yeah.
But you only get snippets of that like from issue 3 on. Okay. So like they front load and then you get more of like it's interesting and it's really fun.
Quick aside, Brian.
Yes.
Last week I noticed Brian has moved in a new place.
I did.
And he has. When you moved, how much time had passed between your move and our live stream last Sunday morning?
A decent amount. I had some other stuff going on in between the two. I think it had been a couple of weeks, but I had not yet had everything like set.
So I saw in your background. I was like, there's his bookshelves.
Yeah.
How are they still bare?
Oh, last week.
My DVDs and my bookshelves are the first thing that go up besides the television. Everything else, like toothpaste, clothes, everything else is in boxes. But I get my other shit in order.
I'm gonna have a conniption fit when I move because I need to buy new shelves and it's gonna take like a week or 2 to build and put up. Yeah. So I'm going to freak out the first couple of weeks not being able to unpack all of the books in the shelves because I gotta paint and I gotta like it's gonna be rough. And I'm glad I'm not streaming from the new room for a couple of weeks. Right. If we because I wouldn't be able to handle it emotionally.
Oh yeah,
I'm also moving, and I refuse to move any of my books Like everything else, I'm packing up, but everything else I keep out. I'm like, what if I want to read it?
Yeah.
I'm
anyway.
actually, I'm like half of my books are in boxes, and it's a little upsetting because like the other night I want to be like, oh, I want to start. As in, I don't know which box. I don't know what box that's in.
Yeah.
You know what the solution is? You know what the solution is? Once you have packed up all your omnibuses that you want to read, just buy another new omnibus to read.
Exactly. Get
From your
one.
local
JD's
JD.
Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia.
I mean, it's a solution. It's not
Green
sustainable,
Lantern.
but it's a solution.
Green Lantern #1 from DC Comics, written by Jeffrey Thorne, a writer that I do not know, with art by Dexter Soy. I feel like there was a second artist on this book.
Really?
I think there was Dexter
so.
Soy and then someone else who I liked much better than Dexter Soy.
Go for it. I'll look it up.
Who did the cover?
As this new Green Lantern series begins, the newly formed United Planets and the Guardians of the Universe hold an intergalactic summit to decide who can best serve and protect the cosmos from danger. With the majority of Green Lanterns called back to Oa, John Stewart arrives alongside Teen Lantern Kelly Quintella, whose powerful gauntlet could be one of the most powerful and unstable weapons in the universe. With the entire landscape of the universe in flux, is this the end of the Green Lantern Corps? Or a new beginning?
Oh, it's that one.
It's definitely a new
I
beginning.
loved this book.
Oh, so you know what?
Yeah.
Go, Brian Lee.
I loved it. I got done this book, and this was like the best Green Lantern book I've read in a long time. I mean, we're coming off of the Grant Morrison stuff, which I didn't get into, but even before that, I really enjoyed the art. I like John Stewart in this a great deal. They told a really cool story with a cool resolution, but also mentioned things from Green Lantern lore that have not come up in a long time. The thing that springs to mind is John Stewart was a Guardian for a little while in a series that I really enjoyed when I was much younger called Mosaic. And when Kyle Rayner, happened and became the only Green Lantern, that stuff was left by the wayside, and they never really brought it up again. And I was at the beginning of this book, I was like, man, I miss when John Stewart wasn't a soldier, like he was an architect, and that seems to be his whole thing now is he was a soldier, and they don't bring that up once in this comic, and that was great. I like his dress uniforms.
Based on Kryptonian garb.
And it's a cool. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh, it's kind of Kryptonian," and there's a reason for that. Very cool. You've got the Guardians back being Guardian-y. I also really like in the story the thing that is annoying you guys about DC Comics is brought up here, where the threads are loose still, and it unsettles them, and like threads of reality are not aligning. And as a concept in story, beyond not minding, I really enjoy that. Like, I like that kind of thing where it's like there's something in Sandman where there's a mountain that when it's there, it's always been there, but when it's not there, it was never there. And I just like that kind of concept. It delights me. Just
it tickles you.
Cool book. It tickles me in a fancy place. And the art is these aliens are great. My one issue with the art is you've got one example of it here on the page. The artist tends to draw people sometimes a little younger. That like the Guardians look like they're in their maybe 50s rather than the like 80s or 90s that they're. And John Stewart, just in this one panel, looks like young 20-year-old John Stewart.
Aren't these new Guardians though? These are newer, younger Guardians. Like they were killed off.
But in the Grant Morrison one, but it's good to see them back in the. Yeah, let's not pay attention to that. Oh, and they're back in their red and white and which I like their outfits. The Kalu thing. Oh yeah. Oh, start to finish. I thoroughly loved it.
Yeah, you know what? I actually really enjoyed it as well.
Cool.
I haven't really given a crap about Green Lantern since Jeff Johns left. I sort of found that to be a really good bow on the characters, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm fine. I dipped in here and there ever since Johns left, and I just could not care. Other than, I think Simon Baz is a cool character, and I think that Jessica Cruz is a cool character.
Sam Humphrey's run. Wait, Sam Humphrey's run was really good. The Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz two-parter or partnership. like right at the beginning of Rebirth.
Was that called
Sam
Green
Humphries.
Lanterns?
Yeah,
I believe it was.
that was very good.
But you like Far Sector, right, JD?
Oh, but Far Sector, yeah, I don't count Far Sector as a
It's
GL.
very different. Very,
It's
very
own thing.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And although I should, I mean, it is a Green Lantern book. But yeah, I thought this was a return. You know what? As much as I was ragging on DC just now about their continuity and how everything feels very slapdash, Nightwing is back to being a great Nightwing, and it's only one issue, but I'm like, oh, this is good dick. I love good dick. I also love good Wally. Wally's back, and the Flash is back where I want it right now. And this Green Lantern feels like classic Green Lantern that I'm enjoying. And here's the thing. We're not dealing with the emotional spectrum.
Right.
Oh my God.
They're there, but they're not. They're just in the background. Yeah.
When Jeff Johns created them, I thought that was the greatest retcon in comic book history almost. I was just like, it felt like it should have always been this way. How has it not always been this way? And then they just beat that fucking horse into the ground. I was done. So that was part of my problem after Jeff Johns left, is like they just kept flogging that horse.
Every story was them running into some other Lantern Corps or something.
Yep. So yeah, I thought this was great, and it ties into what Brian Michael Bendis set up in Superman with the United Planets, and how that eventually leads us to the Legion. That all feels very cohesive. I like this little Bendis section, even though this isn't a Bendis book, but I like how we're sort of building towards that future, even if Future State is sort of in flux. And I like Dexter Soy well enough, but this other artist, Marco Santucci, I love, like, yes, the art is a little younger. The characters are drawn a little, slightly younger, but even just this layout that we have here, where we have the worm's eye view of this character and all of the screens around her, and it's everything looks great in there. It's very much like a mix between Alan Davis and Brian Hitch, who himself is an Alan Davis acolyte,
The panel layout on that one that you were mentioning was very cool too, where he does it here also. You've got like one large panel and then a smaller one inset, and on the opposing page, it's like some bleed out. Yeah. Oh, this costume design is great too.
Yeah,
on this guy.
Yeah, I thought this was awesome. But no.
And the denouement, where how they solve the problem that you were just on, when they say the oath and it's solved in an unusual way. Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you guys really liked it. I still am not drawn to a Green Lantern run since Jeff Johns. This was fine. This very much reminded me of Robert Venditti stuff, which I didn't like at all.
What was that? What story arc?
Essentially all of it after Johns, when Hal Jordan was an outlaw and he had the gauntlet, and then all of the Red Lantern stuff. So like all of the good Green Lantern stuff was happening nowhere near the Green Lantern book. It was the side Sinestro stuff and the side Red Lantern stuff, and because it was just boring as hell. But I also don't think it's incredibly fair to compare this to like The Return when you compare it to Jeff or to Grant Morrison's run, because that was just so weird and off the ball. Like, yes, this is an upgrade. Like, I got it. That's like saying like the Snyder Cut is a superior film. You're starting at a really low point.
Which is a shame.
It's better.
It's a shame because Grant Morrison, when he's on, he is on. But I hated that Green Lantern run. I was so excited for him to be back. I had visions in my eyes of like All-Star Superman, but for Green Lantern. And that was not what happened.
Me too. And even issue 1 kind of looked like, here we go. Yeah. Like it's going. And it didn't go.
There was a handful of issues in that first season that were fascinating. So like, when he had to arrest God, when like it was old school kind of 70s, almost Vertigo-esque things with a superhero.
With a 90s
he couldn't
artist.
land anything. He couldn't land anything. And I just, maybe someday I'll go back and try it again. But man, I read those first 12 issues and it's still just like, I'm fine.
And I'm not going to.
Yeah, either was a terrible choice for that book.
This was just a lot of fine for me. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's
this
cool.
Comic,
I like the this comic.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of the stuff with Teen Lantern, and because I really dig that character. Like, I dig what Bendis kind of introduced, but I don't know. It just seemed out of place here. And then this guy shows up who I think I'm supposed to know, but I don't.
No, I don't think
know who
so.
that is.
Okay.
He's a new guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
the guy with
that was
the
one of my
parka.
problems. That was one of my problems. Actually, I like all the character designs on this.
The designs are great.
Costuming is dope as hell. But that's another thing where I was like, oh, all right. Well, before the Green Lanterns, we had the Manhunters, and before the Manhunters, we had this, and then before that, we had this other thing. We don't need to keep revealing different precursors to the Green Lantern Corps from the Guardians.
There is so much mythology. Just tell me a story. Like, this is my biggest problem this week.
Yeah.
No, there's so much mythology. Like, just with magic, again, I brought it up again because there's this thing where you need to just jam so much mythology down my throat to the point where the characters suffer. Just tell me a story with these characters and the mythology reveals itself. It's the difference between reading the Silmarillion or Lord of the Rings. You're following characters of Lord of the Rings, and mythology is introduced to you at points in the story. The other one's just an appendix of history. Yeah. And a lot of these books are just jamming history down our throat without connecting us with the characters first.
Well, but I don't think this story is not set upon like who the Manhunters were or whatever. And my feeling is we will not see this again. This was just to tell this story, and that's my feeling.
I think this is a genuine story point for the rest of the run.
You think this particular the Amena Trier or whatever this name of this thing is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, you don't introduce something like this in one scene and just like nailed it.
Well, I don't
think for one issue.
No, I don't think that like the things introduced here will now come up. I think it's more about like this magic stuff, but not necessarily this particular.
I think
I got the impression that this is the big bad.
This blue woman is going to return. I don't think this thing that they defeated by chilling. I don't think that's going to come back.
Well, I think that the dude in the Iron Man parka and the blue woman are important to the rest of this run.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
And that's the introduction of like the new mythology, right? Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely think they're the big bad or the big conflict of whatever this run's going to be. I just, this is something that I would probably choose to read and trade. It's just, it's a lot. And
fair enough.
It's fine. Green Lantern I love in general, but I just haven't been drawn to a title other than Far Sector for years now.
Same.
Who was it that drew the cover of this? Was it
Alex Sinclair? Neither of them.
Neither of them.
I thought Alex Sinclair was a inker.
Hang on, I had it pulled up. It said cover artists Alex Sinclair and Bernard Chang. Is that Bernard Chang instead?
That might be Bernard Chang.
Because I really like this cover is not descriptive of what happens in the issue, but I just think it's very well drawn.
It drives me nuts. I'm trying to get to it, but Teen Lantern's head looks as huge as a Guardian's head.
Yeah, she does.
Her body is disproportioned.
She just doesn't fit in this story. Or maybe she does. The gauntlet stuff and them wanting to find it. It's just it seemed like the whimsical subplot of a different book.
Oh, I disagree.
The way that it was like jammed in here.
Oh. Yeah, no, I felt like I thought the stuff that was going on with her was engaging. I was like, I want more of this Teen Lantern.
It is Bernard Chang.
Oh,
well, cool. It is engaging. I just didn't feel like it gelled with this book.
Well, I think that they're wondering what the deal with that gauntlet is, and I think the revelation of what that is.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I did like the revelation that. Yeah,
that like it's a replica. It's from a different reality or something, or they don't know what it's from. Yeah.
Yeah, this just to me it feels like the Venditti rebirth stuff, and it's like it's fine. It's not for me.
Fair enough. Danny, I liked Green Lantern's run, Baz and Cruz. Morrison run was not for me.
Yeah, not for. I only know one person who really likes that run. He loves Grant Morrison. So, I like the way the G and the N in the Green Lantern, in the title. That's a cool design for the title of the book. Yeah,
nice.
We're not talking about it today, and I don't know if you guys are behind, but Far Sector is a far superior book. It's so incredibly good. But issue 11 is was just chef's kiss, absolutely perfect from first page to last. And I'm going to be upset when it goes. Like
I'm
the book is perfect.
Yeah. All right, Brian.
Yeah.
I know it says promo block Q Brian.
Oh. Hey, JD, do you remember that patreon.com that we were talking about earlier in the show? Is that still around? Is that something people
Yeah.
can donate money with?
Screw seams.
Cool.
Show them.
Yeah. Here's a peek behind the sausage. Yeah, you can go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo and help out the show. In addition to that, you can like and subscribe. That would help us out. You can follow us on Facebook. We stream there as well. If you go to facebook.com/CultPopPodcasts. Or you can visit JD'sHeroComplex.shop. You can go to JohnnyDestructo.com, where it basically takes you to my Etsy store, and you can get my original artwork on T-shirts and prints and what have you. And promo block. There, we did it. Magic the Gathering #1 from Boom Studios, Jed McKay and IG Guerra, or Ig Guerra. Listen, this is a long thing. I'm just going to throw it to Noel because
it's about Magic the Gathering, the card series.
There you go.
There you go.
So I do want to read the solicit because it's part of my problem. So it's like 5 bullet points. Across the vast multiverse, those gifted with the spark can tap into the raw power of magic and travel across realms. They are the Planeswalkers. When coordinated assassination attempts on Guildmasters Ral Zarek, Vraska, and Kaya Rock, the city of Ravnica and leave Jace Belren's life hanging in the balance, a fuse is lit that threatens not just these 3 guilds, but the entire planet of Ravnica. Now, these 3 must covertly infiltrate a wild plane of Zendikar and form a tenuous alliance to uncover why the targets of the assassins have all been planeswalkers, ... which will lead them straight to one of the most enigmatic characters in Magic history. I don't know what the fuck any of that means, and I read this. And that's my problem. Like, this is wildly impenetrable. Jed McKay is an excellent writer. Ig Guara's art is awesome. But there is so many info dumps in this book. I would like to know, like, somebody that plays Magic the Gathering, did this make sense to you? Is this just constant hits of member berries and you immediately know what's going on? Because for anyone uninitiated, this is wildly impenetrable. And I was, by the time something had, like page 20 is when you kind of get a handle of your main characters. And you're like, oh, okay, so now we're in it. And then it immediately goes back to the giant info dumps of them, like no scene transition inside of a weird thought world where they're meeting up and deciding what to do. And then it just ends with a cliffhanger that I don't even understand. So, like, who's this for? Is this for anybody that's a new reader? Or is it only for those so steeply ingrained in Magic the Gathering that none of the rest of you don't matter? So that's the comparison I brought up before about Tolkien's work. You read Lord of the Rings or Fellowship of the Ring, you're introduced to these characters and then mythology is revealed to you. Or you read the appendices and you just learn about all the histories and it's incredibly dry. They're trying to jam the two things together and it's just incredibly unsuccessful. It was, but you cared about a Hobbit by the time.
Oh, the Hobbit is awesome.
No, stop. I mean, in general, about the fact that it's got main characters and you follow the main characters and then information is revealed through their prism, right?
Yeah.
This is not that.
Yeah.
This is just throwing character names and guild names and titles at you and histories of worlds and how they function in like 4 text boxes. And it was just, I really didn't enjoy reading this at all.
Now, I have a counterpoint, or just
it's a structural issue.
Yeah. This addresses that. And I was thinking, some of the complaints with the Snyder Cut, which I was not on to discuss with you guys, but I was thinking, is it inherently bad if something does not introduce things that an uninitiated person would want introduced, right? Like, if people are getting enjoyment out of, for instance, this Magic the Gathering, right? Like, there's a lot of people that probably already know all this stuff, and here's a comic that they can read and enjoy, right? So that's not going to be something that somebody who isn't super into Magic would get into. But maybe the trade-off is, if you are super into Magic, I don't feel like having all this explained to me. You know what I mean? Is it inherently bad to not create a story that stands on its own?
Is it inherently bad to only cater to your bubble?
Right. And I would say no, not necessarily.
I would say probably. I would say more so than not, actually.
Well, wait, are we talking artistically or money-making wise?
Artistically and money-making wise. Why would you want to expand your audience?
Well, maybe it's not your primary goal or whatever. I just wanted to know which avenue you were addressing.
I think that there's probably a way to slice both pies, and this didn't do it for me.
Hmm.
Like I really do think that there's a
The best stuff does, right? Like if you can do both
Yeah.
of those things, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, like if they had spent time, like even if this issue was re-edited to have a lot of the action and character play before the info dumps or interspersed with the info dumps instead of just having it bookended by giant info dumps, that would go a long way into like leading me into learning new information as opposed to just hitting me with so much of it. Like I do think that there's a way to slice both pies. I don't know if it's one way or the other, but when you choose one tact over the other, you're just feeding the same beast constantly, right? So again, with the Snyderverse or the Snyder Cut or something, like one of the problems we had was that you introduce all of these fourth world things and you give absolutely no differentiation or understanding of it at all. It's just look at this big bad gray thing who has a big bad gray thing who sent a big bad gray thing to fight things just like he fought things. I'm like, why does that mean anything? But if you knew everything, you're just like, ooh, it's
like,
dark
oh,
side and the mother boxes and
yeah.
But he didn't really even do that well. But do you know what I mean? Like for the few of us, it's cool.
Sure.
But for the all of us, it's at best at arm's length or gatekeepy. No.
Well, I don't think they're
Is it
intentionally like.
No, not intentionally.
gonna
It's not
tell you
like
who this
it's
is.
not like the Magic people are just like fuck you losers.
Right,
You
I'm
play
sure
or
they'd
you
like
don't.
as many
But-
readers as possible.
But if your first introduction to hopefully your first introduction into adopting gameplay,
Sure.
right? Potentially through an avenue like a comic book.
Yeah.
If it's at all impenetrable or distanced from you, then it's like I don't know if I want like that seems like a lot of rules. I don't know if I want to play. That's fine.
Right. You're probably not going to get into Magic through this comic.
Yeah.
But I found myself wondering, like, now we're on a review show, we're reviewing and giving our opinions about what other people might think. But when I am just personally, like, did I like this thing or not? The impulse is to wonder, how good is it? How much would other people like it? Does that need to matter to my enjoyment of it? You know, like, would this be good for somebody else? Oh, maybe not. But I already know these characters or whatever the thing is, you know?
I mean, yeah. But to that end, then why are we sharing our opinions too? Like, it always. This is incredibly objective.
Sure.
No, subjective. Like,
yeah.
My feelings towards this book were strong at a structural level of who's this for, because it seems like it's nowhere near for me, even though there's a lot of things in here that I should be attracted to. So if those people that it's for love this with all their hearts and it's just like a solid A+, great for them. But that's the audience you already had. So why are you moving it? Well, why are you moving into a potentially another medium if that's the audience you already had? So I question the intention as well as how the reception. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
like, yeah. It's not, and also too, the art is gorgeous.
Oh, cool.
Jed McKay is fantastic as a writer. Like Black Hat is cool. He's taking over Moon Knight, which I'm really excited for. Everything is great. It's just the way that this book was structured. It was just like, it made me question, like, it was a slog to get through. And is that my experience? Because I don't play Magic for the last like 20 years of my life.
Right.
So anybody out there that plays Magic and read this, tell me otherwise. Like, was this for you? Because I didn't feel like it was for me.
Well, that I mean, to go along with that, if it's for them, then they don't need the info dumps.
Kinda. I think so, yeah.
Although
Unless-
maybe people that like Magic are maybe super into that kind of thing. Like, here are the little stats and all that kind of deal.
Right.
But because it's a role-playing game, maybe there are thousands of different, like, permutations of this, and they have to have that info dump to tell you exactly which version it is.
True.
Which, again, is like, you could reveal that in the story. Like, it doesn't have to be so much homework. It's a comic.
I don't think everything needs to be for everybody.
Sure.
You know,
And
if there's
can't,
something I
really.
don't like, then I just go, oh, that wasn't for me. You know how I know it wasn't for me? Because I didn't like it.
Right.
You know?
And some of the greatest things really aren't. Like, how many of the greatest things were canceled earlier than you would have wanted?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Robert Monroe Jr. says, I know very little about baseball. If there was a comic book about a kid's life from Little League to pro ball that catered to baseball fans, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Not at all.
Cool.
No,
Sure.
but there's two ways that you can tell that story. It could be about the kid, or it could be about the stats that they accrue over time. The one story is accessible to statisticians who love baseball, and the other story is accessible to both statisticians who love baseball and people that love stories.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's potentially galvanizing to choose one or the other when you could create a holistic experience with this IP. And I wonder about that choice.
If it was a choice, you know, I mean, he
If
might
it
have
was
been
a choice,
sitting there
yeah.
like, this is gonna rock. Everyone will get into
maybe
this.
Maybe it was first issue, got to squeeze it all in stuff too.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's
That could
potential.
be.
And maybe the second issue is not even an issue, but it's just with something like I think it was like the first two issues of Far Sector that just like was so weird to me because it was tons of like world building, just world, but you still had that central character. This you've got 4 central characters, all have their own guild and style and explicit rules, and they hate each other, but you don't understand why they hate each other. Like it's very weird. Like Ravinica is a world built of magic, but it's all magics together that build this world, and each one has planeswalkers who control their specific type of magic. Like this needed a book to explain the comic.
And Robert Monroe Jr. he chimes in a little. You know, we had finished talking about Green Lantern, but he chimed in, what's with the sassy black girl lantern? That image invokes so many stereotypes about black women. It's true. It's but I wonder if that's just the fact that she is 11 years old, and in order to be wielding such a gauntlet of power, maybe she has to be a bit sassy. I don't know. Like, you mean?
I thought she was the precocious kid stereotype, but I am also not. I would not necessarily clock that. Like, I didn't personally notice it, but I'm not decrying it.
Yeah, I took it more as like a petulant kid.
Yeah,
that was what I was doing. Because she's also not a teen. She's explicitly 11.
She's 11.
Calling herself that.
Yeah, from the perspective of straight white guys, we don't clock it immediately. Yeah, so
I have a girlfriend who clocks it every time. So like, as soon as I tease her about not liking something, she gets upset about the angry black woman stereotype. She's like, why do I have to hate everything? Just because I'm black? I'm a black woman and we hate everything, and I was like, that's not what I meant.
I'm sure you didn't mean it in that. But
It's definitely a real thing that people are sensitive about for good reason.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's a nice catch. I didn't notice that, but nice, Rob. One more book to go, I think, right?
I think we're going to do a quick Nocterra number 2. We don't have to really, but I was going to do like maybe not even a full Thunder round. I'm going to talk less about it than about talking about it. Go.
Okay.
It was like a standard kind of book. It was, this like post-apocalyptic thing. There's something that you didn't know about the cause of it, that kind of thing. And imminent danger is present, and they're barely avoiding it, JD.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long they can keep this up.
I don't know how long I can keep this up. I like Scott Snyder. I do not like the artist, Tony S. Daniel, but...
Oh, is this Tony Daniel?
Yeah.
And you historically don't like Tony Daniel's work.
Oh yeah,
right?
just since the beginning of Man, I have not.
I remember.
Tony S. Daniel.
And that was when he was working in Stone and clay stuff.
I just and he is a strange choice for a horror adventure. It just doesn't. It's not for me.
He's very superhero-y with 90s vibes, which I know is not your thing. Super,
yeah. So I read this issue and I was like, all right. Well, I don't know if I'm going to keep. I don't know. I'm not going to keep reading this. I don't care.
I wouldn't have even probably picked this up if not for it being for the show. And and they've got a goal. They've got like a thing that they're doing. It's a fairly ordinary story of its type. It's not incapably done. Like if you're into this kind of thing, you'd probably get into it. But
you know what's stuck in my crawl? My crawl is jam packed with the Big PM. That's what they call the event, the Big PM.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's a
thumbs down.
Tylenol is covering the sun.
Yeah. It's a huge Tylenol PM.
Yeah.
I think Scott Snyder has a way of like naming things in a weird, like
Batman?
Year Zero, super heavy. But yeah, Batmanium. Yeah, and I mean, the big PM was at
Batman
least
Who Laughs
not
also.
making up a word. Yeah.
That's fine, but yeah, Batmanium is more. It's worse.
Yeah, and then also like all of the he also created all the death metal or the metal Batman too. So it's like the dark or the depth, Devastator.
Yeah,
like super
Drowning.
90s shit.
And didn't
Yeah,
he go
Red
with-
Death. Yeah, the Drowning, the Red Death.
Right. Well, the Red Death.
Death Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
just,
of
you
the
know,
two
the
choices
big
for
Just sounds like everyone has already used all of the phrasing for eternal night times, and he was just like, "Well, what's left? AM, PM, PM. You know what? Big PM.
like he has to register it with the nighttime
It's the big
apocalypse
PM.
stories.
Parentheses TM. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't disagree. Yeah, it's silly as hell.
Cool.
Yeah.
are you gonna keep reading this book, Noel?
I only read half of the second issue. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But, I'll again if like 6 months from now, it's part of the conversation, and people are talking about how it just was great and turned for the worse. I might read the trade, but following it monthly is just nah. I'll read. I prefer the other Scott Snyder book,
Undiscovered Country.
Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is
Wow,
pretty
I fell off
But a lot
train.
of that's Charles Soule. So
good. The art is a big part of that book.
Giuseppe
Well,
Camuncoli
Carl
is really
Soule
great
is the
too.
other writer.
Oh, well, my statement stands. It just doesn't apply here.
Okay, fine.
It's not relevant.
Let's move on to the last book of the week, Geiger #1 from Image Comics by Jeff Johns with art by Gary Frank. Who are the scavengers of a dying Earth? Geiger is set in the years since a nuclear war ravaged the planet. Desperate outlaws battle for survival in a world of radioactive chaos. Out past the poisoned wasteland lives a man even the night crawlers and organ people fear. Some name him Joe Glow. I'll call him the Meltdown Man. But his name, ... is Geiger.
Guy. Well, oh yes, of course.
And you know,
Wouldn't it be funny?
I was really excited. I was like, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, that's a heck of a team. I'm really excited about that, despite a lot of strange things being said online about Jeff Johns and how maybe he's not great. I don't know enough about it to form an opinion yet, but I'm a little worried. But Gary Frank, Gary Frank's drawing this book. I'm really excited. This is me running to get the book off the shelf. And I had a nice cover by what's his name? Eric Larson. Nice.
Oh,
variant
it had
cover.
like 5 great covers.
Yeah.
Everything about this book was cool.
Including 2
So-
by Gary Frank, I noticed.
I was real excited, and then I picked it up and I was like, "Oh, this is fine. This is okay." This was not what I would expect from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. It's just fine. There's nothing really for me to grab onto here. I mean, it's all there. I'm just not grabbing onto it. It's not the book's fault. I don't know. We've got a family man who has built a bunker in preparation for the nuclear holocaust. His family gets into the bunker, but his neighbors decide that while they're getting into the bunker, they're going to take over the bunker. And
Whose
so
neighbors are drawn in a very particular way. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, the gun couple.
the gun couple. I
Uh-huh.
didn't even notice that till you just said particular
Yeah.
The
way.
guy's
and I
got a
was like,
mustache, but that's about it.
And she's holding
Yeah.
it in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're basically gun-toting folk, and they're just like, "We're gonna take your bunker," and he's like, "Nah, dog," and he sends his family in there, and then he is stuck outside the bunker when the nuke goes off. And then we flash forward to the far, far future, and it's a nuclear wasteland, and there's nothing particularly interesting about this specific nuclear wasteland that we haven't seen before, and other than this guy is sort of like his character design is that of like a 1960s superhero or supervillain that we've seen before, like the Radioactive Man, or I forget what his name is.
Do you mean? Well, he kind of looks like Blight from Batman Beyond a little bit, actually.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
also the Atomic Skull.
Atomic
His
Skull.
whole body was like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. And it's kind of sweet because we find out that this Geiger is, and oh come on, his last name is Geiger.
Right. It just
Anyway.
happened to be his last name.
Yeah. And we come to find out that he is many, many years later during the apocalypse still guarding the bunker that his family is in and can't come out of. And he has had no correspondence with, we assume, in however long this has been. So that I thought was really kind of a neat idea and really kind of heartbreaking.
20 years.
20 years he's been guarding his family in this bunker.
But I think you're right. The very beginning takes place way after. Well, I don't know how far after, but after.
Uh-huh.
You know, when the two guys in the beginning are talking. I think you're right. That's significantly later.
Yeah. But I don't know. I was kind of really hoping for more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there he is. I mean, it's a cool ass design.
Cool
I was going to
design.
say, I kind of like the center of his chest actually starts to look like a radiation symbol.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
I think I liked this a little bit more than you, JD. I agree with you that it was just fine, but there's a couple of really, really intriguing seeds and in the design, then also the story. Like at the end, it's kind of revealed that they're adjacent to Vegas.
Yeah.
And Vegas, the bit of Vegas that has stood, like the back matter, the Vegas that has stood has actually become controlled by like cartoonish villains, mob villains. I don't know why. That just kind of made me. I thought I was reading one book, and then that revealed it's potentially a different book, a different other tropey book, and merging the two just seems kind of fascinating to me. So like this guy that's just this essentially Dr. Manhattan ish origin is just protecting his family, but then him protecting his family puts him in the crosshairs of multiple mob bosses in a post-apocalyptic world. I mean, it could be fun. It could be Mad Maxy fun.
It absolutely could be. This first issue didn't make me feel like it was yet. I'm hoping that the next couple of issues, I'm going to stick with it only because Jeff Johns and Gary Frank are involved.
And you remember Doomsday Clock, their most recent collaboration, I think. I felt similarly to. I absolutely loved the end of it. The beginning was a little like setting the stage, a little more setting the stage than captivating story.
I need to reread.
What's that?
I need to reread Doomsday Clock. Like as
took
a
a long
whole
time
piece,
to come out too.
as a whole piece, not 2 years. Right?
Yeah. Because like issues 11 and 12, so good. Like I loved them.
I agree.
Yeah. But so anyway, I like this. I was reading it and I was like, oh, it's like a nuclear story from the 60s or 70s or something, like from an earlier storytelling era that maybe Jeff Johnson and Gary Frank have always been like, I want to tell one of those stories, and now they're doing it.
It did have an EC vibe. It did have a 50s sci-fi kind of vibe. And then the introduction of like the over-the-top mob characters, it just kind of kept falling into that vibe for me. I don't know.
And it's
I think it feels a little bit too much like Undiscovered Country right now.
Oh,
Maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
I think the story will play out very differently. The way that it looks.
I think this will be a lot less complex than Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, I think so.
This is going to be straightforward.
There was a problem that I had that by the end of the book I didn't have, but along the same lines, I wonder at what's that?
Sorry.
Yeah, did you eat something weird?
I just said, was it gas?
Wait, did you eat it? Wait,
by the end,
hang on.
I passed
Did you
the
read
gas.
this on the toilet?
Yeah.
Because the beginning of the book, you had a problem.
Yeah.
The end of the book
Came
it's
out
gone.
fine. Yes, I did, but that's irrelevant to my problem.
Everyone shits. Everyone shits.
Wait, everybody poops?
Everybody.
Oh. I got some people I have to
do
correct.
like that Family Guy gag where it's everybody poops but you, and that's concentrated evil coming out of your back end or something.
Yeah, it says we're Catholic. Oh, you want this one? Yeah. So anyway, the changes in the passage in the amount of time that has happened, I was like, how could this be? But then when it pulls out at the end, I'm like, really? Within 20 years, there's been a king and a successor, and they built a castle and adopted old style, like already.
Oh, well, I mean, the castle itself is is just an old casino.
Right,
like an old
exactly.
themed casino. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
was having
yeah,
that thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I do love the idea that like all of these mob bosses are based off of thematically the casinos
They've,
that
like,
they took
styled
over.
themselves after
Yeah,
that.
like the Karloff, the weird creepy butler looking guys, like the haunted mansion looking. Camelot was probably like medieval times
Yeah.
casino, and
Yeah.
the Colosseum. Yeah.
See, I didn't
think
see. I read this just this morning, and once I got done, I was like, "Great, I gotta go
Yeah,
get ready."
all of
I
these,
didn't see
all of these genre tropes align with like
Mhm.
the kind of casino or thematic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But and also, I was wondering, like, at what point in a post-apocalypse does one decide hooded cloak? I'm gonna like. He grew up wearing the clothes that we wear, and he's
Look.
like hooded cloak now. I'm in. I'm down.
If this year has taught me anything, it's just how quickly people can become used to.
You got an excellent point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how people can
Yeah.
adapt. Now everyone forgets how to talk to people in person and or like
Yeah.
how do I say hello?
Yeah.
Whereas we've adopted all of these technological interfaces.
That's a good
So
point.
6 months in the in the
Hooded cloak.
post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
And
wear a cloak.
he's got that.
Yeah.
So you're ordering the cloak. He's got that.
I mean, if that's
sword
the clothing
going
that's
there,
available,
cool.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
wear the cloak. If I find a
Yeah.
sword, I mean, I'm
You're gonna make
gonna
a
use the
roll for it
sword.
in the cloak. Totally.
Yeah, I'll probably be in great shape
Yeah.
because all I'm doing is wielding a sword and a cloak,
Jumping off stuff.
eating
Yeah.
eating nothing but protein.
Exactly. And whatever you can catch. And he looks cool. He does look cool. It's a cool design.
Yeah, I like the character design a lot.
And speaking of the old style, and this was on the main cover, I think. You've got that black and white checked top, like we're in, a lot of Silver Age comics. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? That like banner kind of thing. So it clearly is referencing these like older kind of things.
The Larson cover.
It's good.
It's a great. I like Eric Larson.
Do you know what my biggest concern about this book is?
What is it?
This team is not historically on time with anything.
No.
So I suspect the first arc of this book, even though it's like only 5 or 6 issues, will be a year.
Yeah, I'd say probably about a year.
Up to issue 3 is solicited, but that means nothing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, is it possible that Gary Frank had a head start? Because we haven't seen him for a while.
Absolutely.
He had he in the last 2 years, he's been working on Doomsday Clock in real time, even though he had a head start still. They finished Earth 1 Volume 3, Batman Earth 1 Volume 3, which comes out this summer.
Nice.
And then this.
Okay.
So he's not been doing nothing but this. I'm sure they have a little bit of a head start, but if history is an indicator for us, that head start will disappear.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't know if he is
on.
historically late. I know he was very late with Doomsday Clock because I know that Doomsday Clock was above and beyond what he's usually doing.
There's a lot going on,
right?
yeah.
Like with layouts and making sure that everything is just such a way.
A lot of characters too. Like, There's a lot of characters in that book.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have in the past blamed artists, just assumed that it was the artist's fault, and found out that it was the writer actually.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is still the same writer, so.
Oh right, yeah, that would not that would not affect us at all.
Yeah. But all right, guys.
All right.
Let's get on with our Sundays.
Cool.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that you do on YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook as well. We go live there at facebook.com/CultPopPodcasts. You can help the show out at patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. And we will be here next Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Usually on Tuesday afternoons, I do a live streaming from my store where I show you all of the new products, comics, trade paperbacks, all that sort of stuff. So you can hang out with me then. And then also Noel and I usually do Thunder Rounds, which are videos that were like 60-second reviews.
JD, do you do books or movie clubs on Tuesdays also? Is that a kind of thing that you're into?
We do. At my
You
shop,
yeah, how about that?
we do Zoom meetings every Tuesday night. It's either book club or movie club. They alternate. And this Tuesday night, we're going to be talking about DC YA graphic novel Nubia about Wonder Woman's sister, who you may or may not know about, has been around since the 70s. So, yeah, that's it. You can go to, if you're on Facebook and you want to join the book club or the movie club, basically the same club, you can go to the Facebook group JD's Hero Complex Book Club. It's the name of my shop plus book club, and you can join us where we vote on what we're going to be talking about, and then I post the Zoom links there. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later. Da-da-da.